Hey everybody, Bailey Smith here for Recaptured Values, and today we're going to be doing a video, almost like a 2.0 version to our high-waisted baby bummies. You may have watched the video. It's been viewed now over 70,000 times, which is insane. But we've looked through the frequently asked questions, through the comments, through everybody's questions, and we have pretty much compiled a list of the things that we see most frequently asked and people have trouble with. So we're going to do a video today, pretty much a brand new tutorial on how to do these big noggin baby bummies. So we're going to do it on the serger with a few more techniques that we have learned, and then we're also going to do it on the sewing machine in another video. So if you have a sewing machine, check out our other video that we're going to post with just the sewing machine. We're going to show you how to do this entire pattern on a sewing machine so that you don't have to, guess what you should do or not. So you can see it exactly done on a sewing machine if that's all you have, because you can absolutely make bummies on a sewing machine. This video in particular is going to be the serger, and let's get started. The pattern is big noggin baby bummies. It's called the high-waisted bummie. They now have this. When we first did this video, because one of our first few videos for Recaptured Values on YouTube, when we first did this video, they just had up to sizes 3 to 14. Now they have a kids pattern, which is now up to 7 to 8, I believe. It's 4 to 5 to 7 to 8, I believe, is the pattern. But so you can get a bigger sized pattern too. So now you can get bummies for your kids from 0 to 3 months all the way up to 7 to 8. So that's awesome. Check that out. We link all of our patterns in every video that we do. Any pattern we feature is going to be linked in the video description. All you have to do to find the video description is click the little downward facing arrow on the right hand side of your screen underneath the video. Click it. All the good information will pop open, including where we get our fabric from. You get that secret. So make sure you click that description. You'll get the pattern link to the video. That's one of the questions we get asked a lot, is where do I get the pattern? Click the links in the description. So let's get started with the pattern. Right, so I've already cut out the pattern pieces, just like the original. I have the waistband, I have the back, and I have the front piece here. So the first issue that we had that people were getting really confused about was the leg. This is what it looks like, at least the version that I have. This is what it looks like. It's going to look similar to this. You're going to have two pieces for the kids or the baby sized bummies. So this is the baby size. This is the 0 to 3 month to 3T to 4T. That's what it looks like there. You get all the sizes. They don't have a layers feature for their pattern, so you have to print them all out and cut the size that you need. It comes with two pieces. What I did in the original video, I like to cut the piece that I need, the size. So for the size in particular, the first piece has this little size chart here. I'm doing the 18 to 24 months, which is this green dashed line right here. So I'm going to put this like this, and I'm going to cut this green dashed line. So let's do that. I'm going to cut it across like this, and I'm going to cut this on here, stay on here, and then I'm going to cut this on here. I'm going to cut this green dashed line here, and I'm going to do that because and I'm going to show you the confusion, because if you don't do it like I'm going to explain here in a minute, you're going to have issues with sizing of your cuffs. Alright, so I literally cut those two pieces out. So now when you look, some people were just assuming that I didn't tape these together, which is not what I said in the video, but that's what they I guess took from the video, and using these two pieces as cuffs. If you do that, as you can see, one is bigger than the other one, so that's not going to work. So what you have to do, if you want to get two equal pieces to cut on the fold, you could absolutely do it just like this. Put these two pieces together and put a piece of tape there, and there's your one cuff piece. You'd only have to cut two of these, not on a fold. That is how the pattern instructions tell you to do it. What I like to do is I like to go ahead and grab some tape, tape this middle piece here, because again, you can't just use those two pieces without taping it in the middle, because you tape it in the middle and then you fold it, these two sides together here, you fold it, and then you get the true middle, which is not the spot where we taped it here. This is the true middle. And now you can take some scissors or some snippers just like this and cut along the side here, and now you have two equal cuff pieces. So to eliminate confusion, that is how you do it. Some of these sizes will trick you though. The smaller sizes, they actually are similar in size. So you could potentially not tape the middle, but some of them are not. So it's best to just go ahead, tape them like normal. And if you want two pieces to cut on a fold, because now you cut them in half and now you'll need to cut it on a fold, so you need to remember to write fold on one side. So I'm going to take a pen, and where this tape line is, I'm going to mark that out and put fold so that I know to cut on a fold. I'm going to take this tape line off and put fold so that I remember to cut this and this on a fold. So now I have all my pieces. Let me throw this away. And I have all my pieces. I have my waistband, which is cut on a fold. I have my two pieces here that are cut on a fold. And I have these two pieces here that are all my pieces are cut on a fold, because this was the only piece that was not cut on a fold. I like to cut it on the fold. So there we go. The best type of fabric to use for this pattern is going to be a stretchy knit fabric. My favorite in particular is double brushed poly. This one is from Knit Pop. I don't believe they have it anymore. It's probably out of season anyway. But this is a really pretty double brushed poly. You need to learn how your fabric stretches. That is called your grain line and your stretch. And how to determine that is, okay, so this is the wrong side of the fabric. As you can see, a printed side. Wrong side, right side. That's what we're going to be calling this, so just so you know. And then if you look at the fabric, if you have a brand new uncut piece of fabric, mine's not uncut, but this is the selvage edge. The selvage edge rolls, typically, and it rolls to the wrong side. That is true for solid double brush polys as well. The selvage edge rolls to the wrong side. So, okay. So your selvage edge is going to be typically your grain line. I mean, it is your grain line. This is going to be your grain line, because when you stretch here, it doesn't stretch. That means it's your grain line. So when you pull here, if it's a stretchy fabric, if you pull here, you'll see that's where your stretch is. So all your pattern pieces tell you the grain line, so that means the stretch needs to go the opposite. So I like to put my fabric down with the stretch going this way. So I like to put my fabric down like this, and I'm going to fold my fabric over, and this is how I do all my bummies. So I've got my fabric right side up, I'm folding it over, wrong side, I'm going to put my pieces down just like this, and you fold it over just enough so you're not wasting fabric. Fold it over just enough. And I use these little pattern weights. These are just washers from a home improvement store. I just got a really big set of washers. And so I'm just kind of showing you exactly what I do to get bummies. Alright, and then I'm going to take my two cuff pieces now. And this is why I like to go ahead and cut these and make them two instead of cutting them on a full piece. I just feel like it gives me a really good even cut here. So I'm putting these kind of close together. Alright, so now I like to make really straight cuts. I don't really like fabric being really wonky. That will be wasteful if you are stretched for fabric. Don't do it like that. You know, try to piece it together however you need to do it. But this is for me and my sanity. This is how I do it. So I'm going to go ahead and make a straight cut here. Okay. So then I'm left with this. So then you're just start cutting. All I'm going to do is all I'm going to do is absolutely. Alright, these are the little scraps from the piece. You can keep these if you have a little bucket or something. I'm going to throw them away just because I've done this for so long that if I were to keep all my scraps, they would take over my house. Alright, so then you have your back piece. And your back piece is clearly different than the front because it is not as high-rised in the leg here. You're going to put your pieces right side together. I like to go ahead and just get my pieces set up. Right sides together. No matter what machine you are using, this is true for both. Okay, cuffs. So this is how the cuff looks when you undo it. This is exactly how the cuff would have looked, or had you taped them together and left them taped together. It's exactly the same, right? We just cut two so that we didn't have to use this piece 2 times. I just like to do it like this. Okay. So you're going to fold it just like it was folded if you cut your fabric like I did. Fold it this way, and then you'll fold this way like this. And then that is your cuff piece that's ready to go. This is called the hot hem method, and you will now serge a zigzag stitch right there, depending on what method you do, which we'll do in just a minute. we're going to do serging on this video. And if you want to check out how to do this on a sewing machine, check out our next video. So that's exactly the same thing on the other one. And now we just need to cut out the waistband. So I'm just going to move these over here out of the way, and we're going to cut the waistband. Alright, so I'm just going to literally do the exact same thing. This is the exact same way the fabric was a second ago, so the stretch is still going this way. And now I'm just going to fold a piece for the waistband. Again, only fold enough. You don't want to fold too much because you will be really wasteful if you fold. If you overfold and cut, you just want to fold just enough so that your pattern piece fits on your fold. Okay. And then I prepare the waistband exactly like I do the cuffs. It's folded right here. This is the fold. So we're going to go ahead, it's folded that way, and you'll fold it this way. Hot hand method again, and then you'll serge or zigzag stitch here. Okay, so now we're going to do the bummies on the serger. Pretty much everything is going to be similar except for how I attach the bands. So I'm going to go ahead and show you my settings here. They may have changed slightly. So this is going to be here, here, here. And now my settings are typically at 3.5, 3.5, 4.5, 4.5 is what I like to put my from left to right, my settings on. I'm just using plain maxi lock thread here, and I'm going to go ahead and get started. So we've already prepared our cuffs here. So I'm going to do this edge here. And another question here that we are going to answer is, a lot of people had trouble with this not getting lined up. No matter how you do it, the hot hand method will somewhat give you a little uneven of a cuff, but you can kind of prevent it just a little bit by making sure that you do this end here into your serger first. So we're going to do the folded edge end first. And make sure that this part right here is lined up. So let's go ahead and get started. I like to make sure that my knife is up. It's not necessarily, it is not a necessity to do that. I just like to make sure that my knife is in the up position. It's just what I like to do. Okay, so I'm going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance or 1/4 seam allowance, which pretty much means I'm going to barely cut anything off here. Depending on what this setting is, will depend on how much you're cutting off. All right. First, I need to turn it on. So there's one, and I'm just going to keep that. I'm not going to cut it until I'm done. And I'm going to do the exact same thing with this one. Just make sure all my pieces are lined up. Again, folded edge in to my serger. Alright, next with the waistband, exactly the same as the cuffs, it's just bigger. Make sure that there's no wrinkles in here, and then you start with the folded edge, this edge here, underneath your serger, making sure that all your edges are still lined up. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and cut here. I'm going to cut my little tails because these aren't going to really matter. And then, so quartering, marking your points here. So I like to go ahead while it's folded to snip these 2 points here. And I mean like a tiny, tiny snip. And then you'll flip your cuff out like this. And then, yeah, I mean like you barely see the unevenness since we did it like that. So this is double brush poly fabric as well, so it's not going to show as bad. Bullet may show a little bit more unevenness. But then you'll just make sure that your edges are all lined up. And then there's that tiny slit we made on both sides before we folded it out. So we'll do the exact same thing on this side again, right here. We're going to slip or snip these little points right here. Here and here. And then fold your cuff out just like this. Make sure all your edges are lined up. Again, that is your little snipped points here. They're kind of a little not exactly straight. Right there's my snipped points right there. And then there is the seam, and now it's a very pretty, not bulky seam. Okay, so exact same thing with the waist cuff. Snip these 2 little points, just like we did the bottom here. And then this one, we're actually going to quarter. And I will go ahead and quarter the legs too, because I believe a lot of people had trouble with that as well. So you're going to match up those 2 snip points here. This is called quartering, and all quartering means is you're going to match up points from your cuff to your actual opening that you're putting the cuff on so that you're properly and adequately stretching evenly. And this will prevent the ripples in your fabric and the leftover excess fabric. So all I did here was I matched the back seam with the snipped points that we originally cut, and now I'm going to cut a tiny snip here and a tiny snip here to make 4 points, including my seam here as my 4th point. And so I'm going to do the exact same thing with these since we didn't do that in the original Bummie video. So I've already cut 2 snip points here, exactly the same. I'm going to pull the sides here and snip here and here. And we will go ahead and quarter the cuffs so that you get perfect cuffs. Just takes a little bit of practice. But quartering is your friend, especially if you're new. I typically do 2 points now just because I'm used to it. But if you need to do 4, we'll do that to help you out and get started with Bummies because these are super cute. Okay, so now the cuffs are prepared. Now you're going to do the body of the Bummies. So we've already got these put right sides together. This is the back, this is the front. We've put them right side, which is the print side, together. And you're just going to serge this seam here that I'm holding, this one. You're going to serge this one all the way down, and then you're going to serge the crotch. You're going to leave your leg holes open, and you're going to leave your waist open. Again, 1/4 inch seam allowance. I like to start with my knife up. And you're going to hold your fabric so that it doesn't move too much here. So then that's what the seam looks like there. We're going to do this one here exactly the same. And don't snip your tails too short. Because it can unravel. So I like to snip them about that short. And then when you put the cuffs on, your serger will cut them off. And then now we're going to do the crotch seam here. And you can pin, but just make sure that your edges are lined up. That's just the gist of it. Don't serge over your pins or you will possibly lose an eye, and that's not cool. And if you don't lose an eye, you may just mess up your machine, and that's also not cool. Okay, so now we have the body of the Bummies done. We've serged this side, and we've serged this side, and we've serged the crotch. And so now what you're going to do is quarter the points. So we have 1 and 2 points already with our seams for our waist. So what I like to do is kind of open this up, match up those 2 side seams here, and get an equal point here and point here to snip so that we have our 4 points to match up to our waistband. And then we're also going to do the same thing with the leg opening. You're going to, so here's the leg opening, the crotch seam to the side seam here. But before we do that, another thing is this little area here, I like to go ahead and snip this part off, actually. It just makes it a lot more simpler to do this. I like to kind of open it up and even it out here. Don't pull it too much because it can come unraveled like I was saying earlier. It's just, I find this to be a little pointy and it saves me the trouble to not have to worry about it later when I just snip it off like so. Just kind of even that out to make it kind of even there. That one's a little wonky. Let's fix that. All right, so you just kind of even it out to make it a straight line. That's going to help you when you put these cuffs on so you won't have that little wonky spot right there on your side seam. Okay, so now we have the crotch seam here. This is the crotch seam and this is the side seam. And I'm going to go ahead and match those up on one leg. And then I'm going to snip here and here, and those are going to be my 4 points on one leg. And I'm going to do the exact same thing on this side. Crotch seam, side seam, matching them up and snipping right here and right here just to get 4 equal points to match up my cuffs. Right. Everything is prepared, so now we can add the cuffs. This is where it gets different from the original video. So the original video, I have you turn this garment right side out. I'm going to leave it this way, and we're going to attach the cuffs like the instructions say. So what I'm going to do is get my cuff here that we've already prepared, we've already quartered, and in the original video, I also put the seam here on the side. That was my preference. You can do whatever you like, but I have seen a lot of people say they like to do it on the crotch, so that just in case you don't get it matched up perfectly, the seams, it's a lot less visible on the crotch seam here. So take your seam here, your sandwich seam that we've done on the cuff, and find the crotch seam here. So this is my crotch seam, and I'm going to put it inside the opening, and I'm going to match up my seam here. And so if you look at my cuff seam, this is called nesting your seam. My cuff seam is going this way, So I'm going to make this seam go this way, and this is called nesting your seam, and it will hopefully get us a perfect seam here. And so I'm going to put my pin here, just like this. So that's what it looks like. So my serge seam from my cuff is going this way, and my crotch seam is going that way. So hopefully we'll get those seams perfectly lined up. So next I'm going to go around here to my point that I've cut right here. I like to do the side points and then do the middle points. So this is the point, the far other point that I've done here. So those are my two middle points, and I'm going to go to the side seam here and go ahead and match that point up with the side seam, and go ahead and pin that. I'm going to get two more points here, two more pins, and then I'm going to open it up, and this point here that I snipped, I'm going to match up with this one. And the back is going to be much easier than the front because it kind of stretches a little bit more on the front because of the different rises on the leg. So you come over here to the front of the leg here, and we've got our snipped point here. We're going to match it up with this snipped point here that we made, just like that. And so now we have a perfectly quartered cuff. And as you can see, the cuff, this is another thing that was talked about. The cuff is going to be slightly smaller than the opening. The same is true for the waistband. It is going to be slightly smaller, which means you have to stretch the cuff just enough to lay flat with the opening. And you do that evenly by quartering, like we just did. So let's go ahead and do the other leg, just so we can have it ready to go. Alright, so now we have our cuffs pinned to the inside, perfectly quartered and ready to go. So what I like to do is I'm going to go ahead and put this with this. I'm going to start on my side seam here, and I'm going to just put it underneath here. Again, I like to lift my knife up and put my needle in the up position, push this through 1/4 inch, and go ahead and remove this pin here. Alright, and so I'm going to get started a little bit to make sure that the needle goes in the fabric. 1/4 inch seam allowance. So once I've made sure that the needle has gone into the fabric, I can start adjusting my fabric so it won't pull out of the machine here. Let me get a little bit closer so you guys can see. Of course, my machine light went out. Okay, so now you're just going to pull, and you're going to serge to the pin and then remove the pin. Make sure that your knife does not go over your pin. Pull your pin out, and all the while just make sure that all of your points, all of your two cuff pieces, your two raw edged cuff pieces, and your one opening are all still lined up. Alright, so we're to the next pin here. Remove that, and then pull to the next pin here. Make sure all of these pieces are flat. Don't overstretch them. Just, you're wanting to pull the cuff just enough so that it lays flat with this opening here. As you can see, these are my two cuff pieces, and this is my opening piece, or sorry, this is my two cuff pieces, and this is my opening piece here. Alright, last pin. Pull that pin out, and then you're going to make sure that all your pieces are still lined up and that you're pulling your cuff enough. And then what I like to do is I like to go ahead and pull this serger tail out so that it gets cut off when we go over it. Make sure that your points are still lined up, or make sure that you're still got all your pieces here. And then you're going to go over this piece. and then you're gonna try not to cut the seam that you've already done. So try to keep this away from the knife. You can turn your knife off if you want to, and then you're gonna abruptly pull it out. So then I'm gonna cut my tail about right here. And then this right here is new as well. This is called a nitpicker, and this is from Waywalk. We can put it down below, but it has this cool little opening hook thing on it. As you can see, I've opened the hook, and so now what I'm going to do is pull this right here. I'm going to insert with the hook opened. I'm going to insert it in here, sandwich it in between the fabric, pop it out right by the seam, and then I'm going to pull the hook closed. I'm going to keep it open, but I'm going to pull the hook up. And then I'm going to wrap the serger tail. I don't know why this is blurry. I'm going to wrap my serger tail around the first hook, close the hook, and pull it through. And now that tail is secure. I don't have to worry about that coming open ever. So no more knotting. It's all done there. All right. So then there is a cuff. Completely done, completely perfect. We'll flip it out and see what it looks like in just a minute. So let's do the other side. I have noticed that this fabric has got my thread pulling just a little bit, so I'm gonna go ahead and up my tension just a little bit, just a smidge to see. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the exact same thing for the other cuff. Lay down, in, go around, pull it in, pin. I guess that's okay. And pull it, cut your tail kind of long so that you can tuck your tail back in. Again, we're going to use the nitpicker. Open your hook, stuff it in the middle of the fabric here. You're going to insert it in the middle, then pop it back out kind of close to the seat or to the tail. Then you're going to hook this around, close your little latch, and pull it through. And now that's secured forever. Cut the excess off, and that cuff is good to go. So let's flip this out and look just to see what the cuffs look like. We're gonna have to flip it right back, but just to show you what the cuff looks like. When you do it like this, you are going to have to push this part out just a smidge because it does look a little wonky if you don't. Your side seam. Okay, perfect. So here are my cuffs. Perfectly sewn, and then you just gotta push them, lay them flat, just like this. And there's my cuffs, perfectly sewn. And then as you can see, those matched up perfectly because we nested them. This is the crotch, and these are the seams that we put on the crotch. You can put them however you want it, but again, if you can't get them perfect like this, which is not a problem, it happens to the best of us, put your seams on the side or the crotch. The crotch is more hidden. Okay, so that's what it looks like, the cuffs. And we're gonna go ahead and flip this right side or wrong side out again. And then you need to determine what is the front and the back. So what I'm showing you right now is the back, and you can tell because the cuffs are lower in the back than they are in the front. They are kind of raised for the leg in the front. So this is the front, this is the back. I like to put my waistband cuff seam in the back. That's how I just denote the back, but I'm going to show you how to add tags in just a minute as well, doing it like this. So again, this is a little different than we originally did it. So here is the back, my middle point. I'm going to turn it around so I can see it and it's facing me, and I'm going to attach my waistband to the middle here. On the inside, I've got the garment wrong side out, and I'm putting my cuff on the inside. Different than my original video. And now I'm just matching up all my points. My side seam point here with my snipped point. This is called quartering. So you can't say you don't know what quartering is if you watch this video. Pin it, and last pin here for the last side seam. Boom, boom. Alright, so there we go. Again, look at it. You can see the cuff is a tiny bit smaller. Another point that everyone makes and I see everywhere. Why is my cuff smaller? Is that a problem? No, it's not. What it just means is you have to quarter, you have to stretch your cuff, look. Stretch your cuff just enough so that it lays flat along the opening. See how easy that is? Just a teeny tiny stretch. Teeny tiny. Teeny tiny. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and get started on the, I'm going to get started right here on this seam. So this is the side seam, and that means I'm going to go over my back piece last. My back piece is over here. I'm going to go over it last because I like to insert my tag at the end. Okay, so here's the side seam, and I am doing this one a little bit differently than the cuff. I like to go on the outside to serge instead of going in the round because it's easier to add my tag. Because if you are selling or even gifting, you have to have compliant tags. You need to be compliant, and we'll link that information below so I don't have to talk your ear off on that. But if you want more information about being compliant, because if you are a business owner, you need to be compliant, click the link in the description below and it'll give you all good information to become compliant. So let's go ahead and get started. Pulling just enough to the next point so that everything's laying flat. Our cuff is laying flat against our opening, which the opening is now on top and the cuff pieces are now inside. Just make sure everything's lining up. Next point, we're to the side seam here, the last side seam, and then this is the back point here that I'm holding. All right. Before we get all the way to the back point, I'm gonna go ahead and pull it just a little bit so I can show you. All right, I'm gonna get about right there. So here's the back point where the actual needle is. I'm gonna pull that pin out and I'm gonna grab my tag, my sew-in tag. This is how you attach your tag. Grab your tag. If it's a foldable tag, go ahead and fold it. And just lay it sandwich it in the middle of the seam. And you can find the seam by just feeling for the seam. And then you're gonna go ahead and hold it and serge over it. And then once you get it on there, you can let go of it because it's not going to go anywhere as long as you caught it in the actual seam. And then so you'll just pull and make sure everything's still lined up. Pull it out. Cut here. And then so here is the tail, the exact same thing we did with the cuffs. And then we'll flip it out and we'll be done. Tuck this in just like that. Again, we'll link this information for this nitpicker down below. And then, so you are left with, this is the front, this is the inside of the bummies. That's the front. And that's the back, that's the tag now. And then you can put all your information on your tag, your batch number and your size. And you flip these out. And you have bummies, perfectly sewn bummies. Perfectly sewn bummies, guys. Perfectly, just perfect. So that's how you get perfect bummies every time. Just like that. Now the tag's in there. You don't gotta worry about people not having tags on their stuff. That's how you tag everything. So that's the new way to do it with the serger. Hope you guys subscribe. We put out a new video every Tuesday, a new tutorial. This is just extra to kind of help everybody's confusion. Hope you guys love this. Make sure you give it a thumbs up, and we'll see you guys soon. Bye.